All right, let's get to it. We're going to talk about a couple positions and how they're shaking out here. And we're just going to start with the really big one. And that's Troy Hill. The Browns sign him $6.25 million, another rating of the Rams secondary. And so I guess this gives us a little bit of clarity, a little bit, as to how that secondary room looks and as to how that defensive backfield is going to look. Mary Kay, let's start with you. Although I do have to say, I did have Troy Hill in my How the Browns Go Win free agent.
Start with yourself. What are you talking about?
Dan. Victory lap time. Victory
You're
lap.
right. You're right. I don't get to do many victory laps because I'm usually wrong, but I had Troy Hill. I said Troy Hill is the guy to sign. I had him at 6. I had him somewhere around $6 million for 2 years, not 4. But every NFL deal is essentially a 2-year deal, so I'm gonna take that one too. 2 years, about $6.5 million. I loved his versatility. I thought he was exactly the type of guy the Browns would want to replace Kevin Johnson. And so there we go. And Kevin Johnson signs elsewhere today too. There's my victory lap. Mary Kay, Troy Hill, where does he fit? Is he for sure the nickel?
Well, first of all, I've been digging into the numbers a little bit. Okay. So I will be having a little bit more information on the contract and the numbers probably tomorrow. I'm still trying to make sure that I have it right, but I don't think that the initial numbers that we have seen are what the numbers really are. And I think when the actual numbers come out and I'm able to kind of put that into a little bit of perspective, I think we'll have a better idea of what his role may be. And I think that initially the thought is bring him in and throw him in there to replace Kevin Johnson as the starting nickel cornerback. Of course, we spent tons of time on this last night. We're prescient. And as you know, Dan got to take his victory lap there. But we talked plenty about a nickel corner, a versatile corner that can play inside, outside. And we had a lot of thoughts on that yesterday. And it was kind of timely because they actually did what we kind of thought they would do. They added a cornerback and they added one that can play inside and outside. But the initial plan is to play him at nickel corner, and he is the Kevin Johnson of 2021. But as we talked about last night, so vitally important is when you have Greedy Williams coming off nerve damage, when you have Denzel Ward, who usually has a little bit of a soft tissue injury here or there or something that could keep him out 3 or 4 games, you're going to need somebody to start on the outside as well. So I do think he probably will start some games on the outside, but I don't think that's the initial plan. I think when you would first see, 4 years, $24 million, you think, my goodness, he's the new starting quarterback opposite Denzel Ward. I think that's going too far. I think he's the nickel corner for now.
So Scott Pasco's not here, so I'm looking at numbers. Last year, he had 12 games where he played more snaps in the slot. He had 5 games where he played more snaps outside. And in their last playoff game, it was basically even. I think he played 32 snaps in the slot and 22 snaps outside. So as Mary Kay said, this is like the exact guy we were talking about last night. I think Ellis said his name last night. Ellis also gets a victory lap here. He was on Troy. You guys both were dancing around Troy Hill because he is what we're talking about. Then I think he's the starting nickel. But if Greedy can't go, I think he's Greedy's replacement. So it's perfect. I mean, we're spending too much time this offseason praising their moves. Everything just fits together. But I think he is a Greedy hedge, but who's not only a Greedy hedge because there are many, many snaps for him on the field if Greedy's healthy. So we were saying last night, well, how do you find these guys? Well, I want a guy who can start outside, but if he's not starting outside, he can start inside. It's like, all right, well, who? And it's like, well, him. I didn't know who he was, but it's him. And I think it's double value. Greedy hedge, starter inside. It just fits.
Ellis, take your victory lap. You deserve one too. You mentioned him, I think a couple weeks ago even.
Yeah, to me, this is a guy that I've liked for a couple years now. The Rams just always being on TV. He popped in 2019, filling in to replace Akeem Talib at times, and really started. I think it was the final 9 games of that 2019 season, playing for Wade Phillips. Just a corner that is quick twitch, moves well in a small area. And then in 2020, he really started popping in the slot when Brandon Staley, who, because of the John Johnson, both roundtables and Gotta Watch the Tape pods we've done, I feel like I've been talking about Brandon Staley more than I have Kevin Stefanski or Joe Woods. But Brandon Staley, the Rams' 1-year defensive coordinator, now head coach at the Chargers, comes to Los Angeles, sees Troy Hill's skill set and decides to move him inside because of his value that he has. Again, a lot like John Johnson, suffocating the middle, being able to play those twitchier receivers and putting really more on his plate than he had at outside. And when he made that switch, he had a slow start to his year. PFF had him 57, 52, and 32 grades in week 1 through 3. Now that could just be him learning that new spot and a new defensive coordinator. It probably is, because then as that defense gets figured out, he starts to man the slot. So he impressed me for exactly what, Dan, you brought up yesterday. Mary Kay, you've been raving on. And really what Doug said last night was, I just want a better version of Kevin Johnson. And that's exactly what I saw him be in 2019 when he was playing outside. And then in 2020, as he started really growing into that role Brandon Staley carved out for him. So there are some question marks that I'm sure we're going to get into, but for what the Browns need, he makes a lot of sense. He's not going to be this game-changing player, but if he's a guy you don't notice a whole often, or is getting targeted across the middle of the field and teams decide, all right, that's not an option anymore, that's the role he'll serve. And that's, again, exactly what the Browns needed